Hello and good evening to everyone, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. It really means a big deal for us to see lots of familiar faces of our own volunteers of Planetherapy, and also I'm seeing lots of new faces in here. So for the new faces in here, I'll just say very quickly of Planetherapy has started immediately after October 7th. We've created an online support resilience platform to help Israelis and Jewish people from around the world. We are helping individuals and we're also helping all the circles around them, which means the father, the wife, the neighbor, the community, the children. It's very important for us while we're doing these webinars that if you think for a second, if you know of someone that could need support, we're providing free 6 session support online, and it can be continued, followed up with a very, very small amount of fee on a model of pay it forward. Please pass it on if you can think of anybody that could use this. Our special guest, Orit, that we're truly, truly honored to have this evening, Orit Sulitzeanu, is with us. She is the CEO of the Association of Rape Crisis Centers in Israel, which is also the umbrella organization of one of 9 rape crisis centers across the country. Since October 7th, Orit and her organization have led the first professional and systematic documentation of sexual violence committed during the October 7th attack. That work carries profound responsibility and global significance. This is a very painful conversation, but it's also a very important one. We are the ones that we have to pass this forward. We need to sit here and listen, and this is our responsibility as human beings. And Orit, the stage is yours. Really, thank you so much. It's an honor to have you with us.
Thank you, and good evening, everybody from Israel. I'm honored to be here. As Ilana said, my name is Orit
Orit, put your
Sulitzeanu.
mic on. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me? Is it better?
No.
But I'm hearing nods here, so maybe
I
it's
hear her.
אילנה
No,
זה
I
רק
can see.
אצלך.
Can you
can hear.
unmute Orit?
אילנה זה אצלך, כל השאר שומעים.
We can hear perfectly. So the
אילנה,
problem is
שומעים
at
אותי
your
חוץ
side.
ממך.
Mo?
כולם שומעים חוץ ממך.
We can't hear.
Yes. Yeah.
So, sorry guys, she can't hear anybody. So I'll let her know. Yeah, wait, continue, please.
Okay.
I can't hear you, Mo.
Okay, so I will continue. I hope Ilana will hear us soon. Okay, so I'm Orit Sulitzeanu. I'm from Tel Aviv.
No, we can't hear.
We can hear. אנחנו שומעים מצוין.
זה
הבעיה
בסדר,
זה.
I will mute her. One second.
Okay. Thank you again. As Ilana said, I'm the CEO of the Association of Rape Crisis Centers in Israel. That means that in the regular life before October 7th, and also today, what we normally do, we actually have two main hats. Maybe we should say it like that. First of all, we being an umbrella organization of 9 centers, that means that we know and we deal with the problems that are all over the country, and we help our centers in all kinds of issues. But our main goal is advocacy and changing the situation in Israel for survivors of sexual violence. And in the past 2 years, we initiated and put into the Book of Codes 12 new laws. And I think Israel, you can be, in some sense, we have very good laws concerning how to deal with sexual violence, but the situation is still very hard here because laws is one thing and the way they are implemented is another. Um, Maybe I even would say that one of the most important laws that we initiated and we succeeded to put in the book of codes, and it was done also in the support with the support of the Minister of Justice, Yariv Levin. It's called the legal aid law, and that means, and it's also good for you to know that it exists in Israel. That means that every survivor, once filing a complaint to a police, every survivor of sexual violence can get free legal aid, with, of course, with no payment, no matter what her or his economical situation is. And they can get free legal aid from the legal aid unit in the Ministry of Justice. And this is a very important law, and laws that costs money are harder to pass, and it's an important success. And maybe I will say it like this. When the 7th of October happened, I was thinking to myself, what will be with our work now that the war started? This was only in the beginning, before we actually understand the horrific things that happened. In the beginning, really 1 or 2 days after October 7th, we were very, very cautious and very, very hesitant to acknowledge that sexual violence indeed took place. It's first of all, this is unbelievable, and second, you're living in Israel for many years. We're all used to, very sad to say, we're all used to have terror in our country, but no one never could imagine that the terror that we met this time was sexual violence as a means, as a weapon of war. After a few days, when we got information from our community, and when I say what is our community, I mean the community of people in Israel who are experts in the field of sexual violence, like therapists, psychiatrists, social workers, our rape crisis centers, of course, and we started to get information from real people and not from social media about what has happened. And then we understood that it's not just fake stuff, but it's really something real. And we decided to approach the Red Cross and to tell them about the information we had. We were very naive, I must say, to do that. We thought that if we go to the Red Cross with the information we had, and we had about 12 incidents that we got from all kinds of people, and to tell them, look, we got this information here and this information from there. This is something real and horrible happened here in our country. Please do everything you can to rescue the hostages. This was a very naive belief that they could indeed do something. But that was in the beginning. I think we sent a letter to the Red Cross already on the 11th of October, and we met them about a week or so afterwards. But of course, as you all know, the rest is history. The Red Cross could not do really anything to help our hostages, and it took so long till they were released. But what continued to happen from that time on, because we're sort of in the focal of sexual violence in our country, because we're actually 10 organizations, we know a lot of people, and people, of course, know us. We started to get more and more information about the sexual violence. And I want to tell what kind of information. It was not information about a specific name in a specific place. It was a lot less concrete, but all the information we got, as I said, were from therapists, first responders, people in the field. And because Israel is so small and everybody knows everybody, and it's people start to talk and tell stories. We started to get more and more information, and I decided that we have to write that down, because I thought to myself back in these first days, that the fact that we are getting this kind of information doesn't mean that everybody else will get it, and we are in a very unique place in the country. So it's important to write that down. And we started to compile with an Excel table all the stories that we got, where, what, and so on. And as the time went by, and when I say it was a few months, maybe 3 or 4 months, um, our Excel sheet got bigger. And then in about January, I understood that in February the undersecretary of the UN will be coming to Israel, and I asked one of my colleagues who is an expert in the UN, uh, uh, what do you think? We have this information. We really would like to help her to get the information about what happened. She said, if so, you have to send her, write to her, and you have a month to prepare that. And then what we did in that month, we actually wrote a report that was based on 4 different sources of information. First of all, open resources, as I told you, about stories that from people, and also I must say the international media, the foreign media, not the Israeli media. Some of the big media, maybe networks or newspapers in the world did very thorough stories, and they got quite a lot of information. I can tell you about, of course, New York Times. Maybe most of you know about and read the first article that I think was published in December 2023. Paris Match did a very big article and interviewed people. NBC, and some more big newspapers. And it was very interesting for me to see that it was not Israeli journalists who did this kind of research. And that could be actually very understandable because it was so horrible. And for Israelis, it's our people, our sisters and brothers. And the Israeli journalists did not deal with this issue for a long, long time. So we got the information, as I said, from open resources. And then we also got the information because we go to the Knesset, we go to all kinds of meetings in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and we started to hear testimonies, live testimonies, and also in some closed meetings. And this was another source of information. The third source of information were interviews we initiated with people that knew things, and we were very, very, very delicate at that time, and actually till today, because it's not easy to approach people at November, December, January, December 2023 and January 2024 to get information. But we did do that very, very delicately. And the fourth source of information was some information we got from our rape crisis centers. And when January arrived and we understood that we had to write the report and we have a month, this is what we did. And what we tried to do, because we're not the police, we're not an investigative authority, we're the Association of Rape Crisis Centers, we're an advocacy group, but what we tried to do is actually, we could not have any information where things happened, what exactly happened, who it happened to, and I'm sure all of you already know, because these things were talked a lot, that in Israel, no one collected at that time, and no forensic data, because nobody thought about it. Nobody even looked and saw the big picture in the beginning, and when there were hundreds and hundreds of bodies waiting to be buried and identified and buried, the main goal of the people there that dealt with the bodies was to identify who is the person, and according to the Jewish religion, to put the body into burial, bring the body into burial. And therefore, at that time, it took a lot of time for people to see the big picture. And we also talked with the volunteers in the Shura base, where they did all the identification of the bodies. And for one person who comes there, and some of these people were actually volunteers, so to take care of one body and then another body and another body, it takes a long time to see the big, big picture. therefore, our report, I'm returning to our report, was actually an analysis of the practices, as we learned, the analysis of the practices by the Hamas terrorists. What exactly did they do? What exactly did they do? And try as much as we can.
Orit, you're muted.
Yeah. What did the Hamas people, the terrorists, Nukhba terrorists do, and where did we get the information from? And we were very, very cautious because we knew that any mistake could be critical. So what we decided we decided to define a practice of something that we at least had three different testimonies or information on the same method. So if we had gotten information about a sexual violence incident and we only got to one kind of this pattern of sexual violence, we did not put it in our report. We needed to have at least three different resources of three different cases of the same practice. And what we try to understand is to see the picture and to try to see if there's something systematical. And as you all know, because these things were already many times in the media, we actually saw different patterns that repeated themselves of what the Hamas terrorists did that in Israel we never before encountered. Because as you all know, we've got shootings and people unfortunately are killed in Israel by terror for many, many years. But the way it happened this time, the horrific way it happened this time, was something very new. Just even to say, like shooting in the intimate organs, it happened quite a lot. So I don't want to get into all these horrible details, but what I wanted to say actually is that when we saw these cases happening again and again and again, we understood that as much as a human being with common sense can understand that this was something systematic. Because why do the terrorists do the same things again and again and again? Unless they do it because, as we understood or thought, somebody told them to shoot in the intimate organs. We collected, analyzed, and sent this report to the Undersecretary of the UN, Pramila Patten, and then she came to Israel, and we met with her a few times with her team, and we gave the information, and we also took them to one of our rape crisis centers, and then we also published that report. It was in February. It's just actually 4 months or something like that after October 7th. It's not a long time, and what was important in what we did, it was actually the first coherent picture of what happened. And I can even share with you that we were, because again, people who deal with sexual violence and this phenomena it's always this he said, she said thing. So you always have to be very, very accurate. And because already when in February we heard what's going on in the world, we heard the denial that already began, and we were very, very careful, and we knew that we could not have any mistakes. So I can even share with you that in the morning, when we were about to release our report, we suddenly get a telephone call from one of the people in Zaka. Zaka, I hope everybody knows. I don't know how to say that in English, but it's the organization that actually collects volunteers that collect remains of bodies when there are bombs or terrorist attacks, in order to bring every piece of and part of the body into burial. So one of their volunteers called us. Actually, I think he's not. He is even a staff member, not just a volunteer. And he told us that one of the testimonies that he gave us was not correct, and because. And I can even say that the testimony that he had, that he saw somebody without of a young woman without pants, and therefore he thought this could be sexual violence. But then, after a while, he understood that actually it was not right. But what happened was it was indeed a body without the pants, or with the pants a little bit lowered. But the thing was that the army thought that this body was there was a bomb, like maybe a grenade there. They put into the body, so therefore they moved the body to another room and try to see if it was indeed so, and therefore this was the reason why the pants were not on, and it's not because something that the Hamas did. And in that same morning, we had to take that piece of information from our report in Hebrew, then in English, so there will not be any inaccuracies. After we released our report, we didn't think it would that it would get such worldwide interest as it did, because as I said, the important thing about it, it was the first document in the world. Up till this day, the Israeli government did not release any document about that. So it was the first report in the world about what happened, which was very, very accurate. Everything had the resource. And we were I'm very proud to say that there were no mistakes, and no one found nothing that was not correct. And again, there were, because we are in the scene in Israel, some people who talked about these issues, some of them had inaccuracies. And, one inaccuracy is a weapon for the people who deny this thing, so if you release something to the world and then they find in your report mistakes, it ruins the whole report. And I was very, very nervous in the beginning, till like after one day I was relaxed that it's okay. But that was not easy. What happened after that for days, maybe in weeks, we were approached by the international media and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, because they all needed some coherent information to tell what happened and try to get the big picture. Of course, we did not have numbers, and of course, we did not have names. And by the way, no one has, because it does not exist. And this is really horrible. I even remember myself in these days Googling the first time in my life the terminology sexual violence and war, and then I see Ukraine coming and I'm starting to read about it, and I was thinking to myself, I can't believe that I'm here in Israel and I'm reading about countries like Ukraine or maybe Congo or Myanmar.
Remote location, finding a solution is challenging with current estimates of replacement steps.
Okay. One other thing that I want to share with you, because we were so overwhelmed, we did a few webinars. We invited a therapist from Ukraine and a professor from former Yugoslavia we did a lecture to therapists about this issue, because nobody in Israel even knew about this kind of thing. So, as I said, the report got worldwide interest, and after that, the Pamela Patton released her report, and there was another report by the Commission of Inquiry of the UN, and a few other reports. The Dina Project had a report, an Israeli organization with a few women who also did a very good report, and now Amnesty International issued a few weeks ago another report, and every report gives some more information. It's very, very hard, and you also have to be very ethical about collecting this kind of information, because you don't go and ask people these kind of questions, and now also after the hostages returned from captivity, we're even getting a wider picture, because not only there were people it was mainly in the Nova party that were either raped and murdered, assaulted and murdered, sexually assaulted and murdered, and there are a lot of people who heard testimonies about what happened, heard or saw. And then also we have the hostages that returned, and all of you read the news probably, and all of you were exposed to the testimonies of women too, and there are more, and men. I think at least 3 or 4 that gave testimonies, and I'm sure there are more. Uh, and it's and this situation, by the way, really influences our work because after October 7th, our hotlines in the beginning were very, very quiet. Nobody or very dared to call in this dire situation. I'm a survivor of sexual violence. Who am I to ask for help while in the tunnels of the Hamas there are people suffering and abused? So this influenced our whole ecosystem of sexual violence. We see now after the hostages returned, we see a rise of calls from our hotlines, and because people suddenly feel that they are entitled to also ask for help. The situation, the fact that so much of these things, this information is in the Israeli media, has a big influence on our society because it's really triggering. Imagine to yourself that you're a survivor and you open the news or open your telephone, and in your social media you hear that very brave testimony. I don't know if some of you heard it, of Romi Gonen, that was very brave, very charismatic, and telling all of the world and all of the Israeli society that she was 3 times abused, and she doesn't get into details, but it's enough what she's telling, and this is so triggering, and I can, and it really influences so many other victims. Today I was talking with a psychiatrist that she has um, a clinic, a big clinic in Israel, and she told me how many of her patients talk sexual PTSD, that suffer from complex PTSD, talk to her a lot about the hostages and how it influences them.
Orit, I see that we have a few questions. If you want to,
I will try to.
when.
Okay, you can
thanks.
ask. Do you want to? I will tell you. Like I talk for a few more
Okay.
minutes, and I just want to jump to today. Where are we today? Okay, in Israel, everybody knows what happened, and as time goes on, more and more information is coming out, and we also today are trying to write another report about the influence and of what happened. Maybe I should. We're writing about the needs of the survivors today after what happened, and what is giving to them, what is not giving to them, and what do they need. And they're the direct survivors and all the people around them, and a lot of people. And I have to tell you a little story which just shows a lot. We were just talking about it yesterday when we were preparing for this meeting with Ilana, that yesterday in Israel there was how shall I say it, a media, there was this bad event that in an Israeli soccer club or football club from Haifa had a big derby, and in that derby they put it a huge sign, the fans of the club, a huge sign, very big, and on that sign they saw 5 men wearing green uniforms and a woman wearing a red uniform sitting on a sofa, and the men are on her like as though they're raping her. And many of all the news media all the media was talking about it, and the father of Romi Gonen, Eitan Gonen, he is the fan of one of these football clubs that were playing in that match, and he said that for him it was very, very triggering because it's huge. This is not at all. It's like a pornographic kind of a sign. And he said, when I saw that, I was thinking about Romy, my daughter, that Hamas terrorists on her, trying to rape her. So look how this influences our society. Because you're all our therapists, so I will talk about really shortly about the mental health crisis in Israel, and you're here to help because there is a crisis. There's not enough therapists in the public therapy. Many people leave the public therapy because there's a huge demand for therapists. You can just finish your first degree in social work, and you already want to be a therapist. That's how it is today, and everybody wants to be a therapist and not to work in the governmental places because the money they earn there is low. And one more phenomena that is very sad, that is also happening in Israel, people are leaving the country because of the legal reform, because what's happening in our country. About 200,000 people left the country, many academics, and also doctors, therapists, psychiatrists. So we are feeling that. And who are influenced? The people that maybe don't have the money to pay for private counseling and private therapy, and they suffer the most. And there is a huge crisis today in Israel. The crisis is already for a few years, but after the war, it really went like that. And we see how it influences survivors that call our hotlines, and this will be my last sentences. We can see in our hotlines more suicidal calls, many survivors that are in devastated situations, waiting for 2 years to get public therapy. 2 years. We try to help them, but this is how it is: 2 years till you get public therapy. And this is very long, and if you're now in a catastrophe, you cannot wait for 2 years. And this is why our centers try to do all kinds of things to help them. We don't give therapy, but we do other things, and we try also to help these survivors till the 2 years pass and they finally can get some help. So we're dealing as organizations with the war, its aftermath, and the very harsh consequences on the people that we try to help, them, women and men. Maybe I will stop now and answer some questions.
Yes, somebody, Nosmo, just 1 second before I speak to you. Orit, we're here to help you. Okay, we're afterwards.
Yeah.
Mosmo put his hand up a long time ago. So please, everybody, afterwards, just put your hands up and we will help Orit to answer the questions. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much for everything you do. You said at the beginning of your presentation that the press had released not reports, not detailed reports, but facts about sexual violence as a weapon of war, and that it happened on October the 7th. Well, I saw the complete opposite. I saw denial. I saw people saying it was fake news. I even saw people who claimed to be rape victims claiming that it was fake news. And it wasn't until the Diner report came out and the very recent UN report came out that there was admission that it actually happened.
Yeah, I heard that, in the beginning, what you're saying, I also saw that, not in the beginning, because as I said, I talk with dozens and dozens of journalists, but in the beginning, the journalists from all over the world, from the UK, from the United States, France, Germany, and so they were like with us. And then
I saw the opposite. I saw the complete opposite.
Yeah, but then I remember one big article. I think it's from the Times of London, and the journalist came to my office and she told me that she covered from Ukraine sexual violence, and I thought that they were, and she understood. And the article that came out from the Times of London, was really, really, when you read it, it's like an article it's a denial article. There was also a big article in the New Yorker, and for me it was really devastating to read that because, by the way, the reporter was Jewish, intellectual that immigrated, not was it, her name is Masha Gessen. She immigrated to the US. She's very bright and so forth. And the article, and she sat with me in my office. And I'm an NGO. I'm not the government. I don't get money from the government. Our ideology as an advocacy organization is not to get money from government, only from people who want to donate to us. Our centers get about 15% of their budget from the government, but as an advocacy group, it's part of our ideology. And she sat in my office, and the article that came out a few weeks afterwards started. The way the narrative started was talking about a professor that surveyed the instances of sexual violence in Yugoslavia, and then this professor said, she quoted him, that many of the information was not real, exaggerated, and so forth. So when you start to read an article, when it starts with this narrative, you know where the article will end. And this was her article. And I saw that also, I saw in Israel many things, but not everything. But denial, of course, exists. And I can even share with you that I met with a group of journalists from the UK, and I still remember that one of them from an important newspaper from the United Kingdom was asking me this question. This is what he asked me. He says, I have a friend who is an expert in the dark web. He searched the dark web to find videos or video clips of sexual assault. He did not find anything. How can you explain that? Because all of us know that Hamas went with GoPros and so I told him, I thought, what kind of question is that? And I told him, you know what? First of all, I'm not a spokesperson of Hamas. Don't ask me. Second, if you want to think about it a little, Hamas are smart people, and they know what they want to photograph, want to video, and what not. Maybe they did not video that. Maybe they did it and they did not upload that. I don't know. And this, what is the meaning of your question? What do you want? So, yeah, I tell you one thing, and this is, of course, one of the big explanations for that is anti-Semitism, but I want to tell you one more thing, because I've met so many years I work in this field, many times, even in just regular cases, not once and not twice, and it's also in your countries, there's denial. I'll tell you an example. A very famous actor or a very famous member of parliament, and he's allegedly did abuse a woman, yeah? In the beginning, they all say it did not happen, and it's all lies, and it's blackmail. We all have it in all of our countries. And many times for people, it's hard they prefer not to believe it happened than to believe that people can be that horrible. This is in the regular life. Now, in the non-regular life of this horrific terror attack, it's a what happened is a nightmare, yeah? So I even saw that from Israeli Arabs in Israel. Some Israeli Arabs in Israel that are Muslim and have family in Gaza say, who can believe that somebody from my family who maybe is in the Hamas could do these things? So denial is easier because it's indeed one of the most horrific, sexual violence is horrific. Sexual violence is a weapon of war, and the way it was done in Israel was so sadistic, and it really was unbelievable. So denial exists, and I want to tell you, everybody who is Jewish. I'm a daughter of a Holocaust survivor. Don't we have Holocaust denial? Of course we have Holocaust denial. My mother had a number here on her arm, and from Auschwitz, and okay, there's Holocaust denial. This is something that exists, and the world doesn't change, and this belief doesn't change, and anti-Semitism exists, and we're dealing with that right now. So this is what I can say.
Thank you. Well put. Well said.
Yeah.
We have Simi now. One second. I cannot put you see me on spotlight if you can't. Um, you can talk, but I cannot spotlight you because
Okay.
you don't have video on.
No, can you hear me though?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for this. I'm finding it traumatic but interesting nonetheless. I wanted to know why, or whether or not you knew whether at the very beginning, when in after October 7th, they invited in certain journalists to watch videos that were never released to the general public, and they were only shown to those journalists, and they showed you the reactions of the journalists, but they didn't show the videos in particular. And I suppose my question is, would that have made a difference to public support? Because at the moment, I live in the UK, things are not good here. I live in Manchester, and the pro-Palestinian mobs continue, including celebration of the attack in Bondi Bridge. In On Bondi Beach, the next day they were out there celebrating the death of Jews, and it's really distressing to see. And the majority of my family live in Israel, so I'm wondering whether or not you feel that that would have made a difference, and also whether or not whether or not those videos will ever be released in order to try and improve the perception that people have of what happened and what didn't happen, because unless some evidence is shown to the general public, I don't think we're ever going to change the views, and it's not getting better. It's not subsiding. It's getting worse. So I was wondering what your feelings were about that.
Yeah, when you were talking, I was thinking to myself, really, how come these videos were not shown to the public? But I don't have the answer, but I can share with you that on the 7th of October in the evening, it was the first time I myself went into Telegram. For me, Telegram was a place where you want to buy weed. So I did not have Telegram. I'm telling you, but I don't know. I had this urge to see, and I even didn't know exactly how to use Telegram. So I remember myself sitting in the news on the 7th of October on Saturday evening. I live in Tel Aviv in a place where there's no shelter. So all of our family, we were lucky to have some empty apartment of a family member, of a relative, and we went there because they have their sheltered room. And while watching the news, I downloaded Telegram, and I was reading how to see things there. And then I started to look at the things on the 7th, and I saw, and I'm really resilient. I don't know why, but I looked at the stuff that the Hamas uploaded on Telegram, because you see, I'm wearing eyeglasses, so sometimes I just went like that, so I won't see it very well. But I
Yes.
looked but you could imagine, but I was looking at these horrible videos of the thing, and it was not sexual violence. It was mainly all kinds of attacks, and to see that, it's horrible. And also, I want to tell you something. When you see that, you also see the soldiers that were killed. You can identify them sometimes. So, but first of all, to see these horrific, sadistic things, think about the families of these soldiers.
Yeah.
But I want to tell you something. Today we are living in the era of AI. That
Yes.
what is true and what is false is not as it was before. So of course, it's very easy to produce photographs and videos. Not very easy, but it's doable, and to show all kinds of things. I do not think that I think that first of all, the pro-Palestinians, why should they believe? They would denounce everything. I think it's no matter what you show to them, and if you show them the sadistic acts of their brothers, they maybe they will deny. They say that Israel did these movies. So I don't really believe anything can change the minds of people who don't want to believe it. It's a lot more deeper than the facts.
Mm.
It's inner beliefs about Israel should exist or not exist, about Zionism, about the state, about Palestine, Palestinians, and of course in these I didn't see these movies that they show to the journalists, but I don't think that there's footage, as much as I know, at least from the people that I asked, from my resources, that there's footage of sexual violence live. People.
Yes.
So it's always, in the issue of sexual violence, it's always in all the court cases. How do you prove that it happened? It's against what I say is, as I said before, it's the he said, she said thing. Now Israel is the she said, and the Hamas is the he said, and Israel has to say, it happened to me, believe me, it happened like this, it happened like that. And the world and the Hamas said, prove it to me. Show me a video clip. Show me photographs that really prove it. These things, when you have dead bodies that were not photographed, and even if they were, it's not something that you can show. And there were a few testimonies, not a lot, of people who were witnesses or ear witnesses or eyewitnesses to what happened. One of them was one of the witnesses that the most horrific story. She herself never went out, but she gave this testimony to the police, and the police representative gave her testimony in the UN, one of the UN sessions. So I'm sure the pro-Palestinians say, we don't believe Israeli police. We don't believe Israel. They will never believe it. It's not a matter of truth or false. It's a matter of, as I said, inner beliefs about the fact that Israel can exist. And Israel did also many things, and what we see in Israel in the media, it's not what you see in the UK.
Yeah.
And so I think it's these kind of things. It's like it's very hard to prove, and if you don't want to believe, no matter what you see, you will not believe. This is what I think.
I mean, I definitely agree with regard to the pro-Palestinians. I don't think, my experience, despite all my best efforts, doesn't change the minds of any of them. But they are not the majority. There is a silent majority, the majority that don't necessarily believe or disbelieve, but they stay quiet. And my hope was that maybe if we could get all of the silent majority speaking, that maybe or not, maybe it would change not the experiences that people have had, but the incredible speed of the rise of anti-Semitism that is happening in the UK, in Germany, in the States, and across the world. But I don't think there are any answers. I was just curious to know what your thoughts were.
I was thinking to myself, as I told you, my mother was a Holocaust survivor. She was
Yeah.
born in Poland, and she passed everything. And I was thinking to myself many times about her, and I was thinking to myself, if the Holocaust happened now in the AI era, I was
Yes.
thinking, we would say gas chambers. They will show. Do you have a video of the gas chamber? I want to see people opening the gas chamber and people dying from gas, then I will believe you.
Yes.
So then I will tell, but nobody photographed in there, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing, people who want to deny will deny, and
Yes.
actually don't care, they don't care. It's not they don't care about that, and maybe they think that we Israelis we're the enemies, we're criminals, and whatever happened to us is okay. I think the human perception is sometimes horribly twisted. I don't know if the right terminology.
Yeah.
And we're all suffering
Thank
from
you,
that.
Simi.
Thank
We
you.
have 2 more questions. 1 second. I've asked Jane, why can I unmute you? Oh, perfect. You're good. You can talk.
Hi. Okay. Well, thank you. My question is, I guess, a little bit more specific. Could you speak a little bit more about? I appreciate that you looked at research and spoke to people who have worked with people who have experienced very terrible sexual abuse, and also people who have worked in war situations, such as Ukraine. But as we know, what happened in Israel was very unique. So could you speak a little bit more about how that impacts the way that you work with survivors and the families of survivors? Because it's my understanding that when someone is working through these types of issues, it's not purely what happened to them, but the context in which it happened and the support or lack of it from broader society. So if you could speak a little bit more about that, because I'm sure that people get tremendous support within Israel, but obviously it's not just that the survivors are going through, the process, but then they're seeing all the time the denial of their experience, the justifying of their experience, and that has to impact them on a personal level. So I guess what I'm saying is it's not purely a psychological issue in that sense. What happened in Israel was very unique.
Yeah. Okay, first of all, I want to clarify, being rape crisis centers in Israel, we do not give direct therapy. And in Israel, there was a very new protocols that were written down and prepared to how to receive the hostages and all these survivors and how to take care of them and what to ask them and what not to ask them, all the trauma, sexual trauma informed medical practices. So the survivors and their families are treated by special, not all of them, but many of them treated by, at least in the hospitals in the beginning, by experts who had very thorough and protocols of how to treat them, not us in the centers.
You're coming to Marx's with me.
But what you're saying, I want to tell you something. Maybe luckily, and it's also a problem, I think. Luckily, in Israel, a regular, I'm just doing it like that. A regular survivor of sexual violence does not get the support in the community that the survivor of sexual violence from the war. All of the hostages in Israel are like celebs. Everybody wants to talk to them, interview them, touch them, have a selfie with them. They're like heroes. Some of them they're speakers. Some of them take thousands of shekels to give a speech. Some of them wrote books. They are heroes, and good for them. They're heroes, yeah. So in Israel, they're all hugged very warmly by the community. One of the problems, and this is a criticism of myself to my country, one of the problems in Israel and it's not good for us, but the Israeli media does not show what you see. The Israeli media and the Israeli society, unfortunately, are not aware enough to the horrible. First of all, what is seeing abroad? When I go abroad and I open CNN, I open other Al Jazeera, whatever, I can see how Israel is portrayed. But many Israelis don't see and don't care, and the Israeli media does not show that. And many Israelis do not understand enough, in my opinion, how the world sees us. It's not enough to say anti-Semitism, because they don't know how we are seen abroad. And today, I don't want to get into politics, but we're not in a good era in what's going on in our country. Some of our leaders don't speak cautiously enough as they should. And I don't want to get into that in this conversation, but I think if I want to answer your question, the survivors in Israel are hugged. Many of them, or some of them that are able, are going a lot abroad to talk in front of many Jewish audiences, and they're really hugged and and as I said, everybody, and it will take a while till that will finish, but maybe for the rest of their lives they will be remembered. He is the guy that was 200 days in the tunnels of Gaza, and for years this will be part of their, of course, part of their identity for the good, also maybe, but for the bad. So I don't know today they're all dealing with very hard rehabilitation physically, so all kinds of injuries that they have to, and of course mentally, having flashbacks, having a lot of trauma. Some of them have good families that help them, and others, each one will have their own, his or her own way. When they go abroad and hear the denial, so I cannot give you a concrete answer, but at least in our society here in Israel, they're so hugged and seen as heroes, and I think it gives them a lot of power. Everything that they do is in the news. If they have a boyfriend, it's in the news. If they come somewhere, it's in the news. And Romy Gonen, that gave this interview about all what happened to her and about the sexual assault. In the interview, she said, "I have a dream. I wish I could sit 3 hours in the Israeli IDF radio station and give a show, present a show." And then the next day, you see her in the IDF channel, doing what you dreamt to do. So whatever they ask, people want to help them, and so at least this is the atmosphere in our country, and they will deal with that abroad also. Yeah.
Thank you. Can we move to Iris? We have just a couple of last minutes.
I don't have a long comment, but Orit, you said that you had discussions with the Zaka, with the people who were preparing the bodies. And I remember seeing it wasn't just a video, it was actually a film interviewing some of the people. It was specifically, they were women in this particular case, but they were describing what they had seen after they were collecting the bodies. And one of the things that struck me was that one of the women said that it was very evident in some cases that women had been desecrated because their bodies, I remember her saying that the legs were separated in a way that wasn't possible and all of this kind of stuff. So did you use any of those kinds of descriptions as verification
Yeah, we
in your
talked
report?
also.
You
I think
did.
I know who you talked with, and of course, but I want to tell you something because yeah, she would give a very good. She was a great, very important testimony. This woman, and but I want to tell you something. This woman and all of her, not only her, there were a group of 12
Yes.
volunteers.
Yes.
Their expertise. They're not forensic doctors. So
No.
imagine there was a court case in Hague. Did it happen or did not? Will she be a good witness? Not so sure, You understand what I mean? But
Yes.
she has eyes. She's an architect by profession, this woman. So yeah, but of course we talked with her. What she said, it was very, very important.
It was so shocking. And I thought, how can you deny when you hear this kind of testimony? Because she wasn't talking because she wasn't a professional, it made it even more resounding because you couldn't deny what she saw. And she wasn't actually saying, yes, I believe this is 100%, but if you ask me, it
Yeah.
wasn't normal. So, I just wondered if you had included that. That was
Yeah,
it.
but
My
I just want
question is
to
short.
say one more thing, that imagine we were in Congo, in Myanmar. Would somebody
Yeah.
deny these things? No, I think it's the first country in the world that has suffered from sexual violence that there's such a denial because the denial.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're right. 100%.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Me too,
And
unless you are a Jew.
Ah,
and one question that pop in the chat, is there a way to see the reports online? Do you have a
yeah, of
website or
course. Yeah,
something?
I will send it after to Ilana, and we have it in many languages. Yeah, and you can see that, of course.
Thank you. So, do you have a couple of more minutes? We have two more questions.
Yeah.
Good. So, Yossi, you're up. If you want to open video, I can put you on spotlight. If not, like that.
I'll leave the video off for now, thank you. Now that the UN and Amnesty have acknowledged the sexual crimes, do you know what their current attitude is, and are they doing anything? Are they doing anything in terms of relating to Hamas, who perpetrated it, or in defense of of the Israeli victims?
That's first of all, I want to tell you something about the UN. I'm not an expert in the UN, but Pamela Patton, the UN is a big organization. It's not one organization. It's a huge thing. And I was just talking to one of the experts here in Israel. The UN has repertoires on sexual violence. One of their repertoires name is Rim Al Salam. She's a Palestinian, and I think it's a volunteer work. She herself condemned that sexual violence happened even after the Undersecretary of the UN issued her report. And I just read in the news that now she was appointed to a second term of being a UN repertoire. So the UN talks in all kinds of voices. And I don't think, UN Women, I myself organized a demonstration beside UN Women, beside the UN in Jerusalem, because UN Women, it took them weeks and weeks and weeks till they condemned and gave some declaration about what happened. And the head of UN Women is her name is Sima Bahos, and she's from Jordan. She has a PhD in gender studies, but and she herself gave this statement, I think, in December, but then continued all the time to talk about what Israel is doing to Palestinian women. So the UN is not doing anything on these issues as much as I know, and Israel, I know from Israeli diplomats in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that they're telling me it's a very tough time now being in the UN, being in Israel, being in the delegation of Israel in the UN because of the attitudes there. Yeah, that's how it is right now.
Thank you. Now we go to Sue. Oh, sorry.
Hi. Is there anything we can do as general public in the UK? Is there anything we can do to help?
I tell you, I was asked this question a lot of times with all kinds of lectures that I've given through these past months. I think the most important thing, it's very hard. It's very hard to fight this war of denial, but I think at least if we can explain the facts, we can explain, as I said, what happened in that day, the situation, the fact that there was no rape kits open, because that's not at all suitable. It's not a television, TV series, CSI, Law and Order, whatever. It's a war, and how complicated and how horrible was the situation. And again, we're not talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of victims. In Yugoslavia and Congo, there were tens of thousands of victims. So you've got more people who can give testimony. And Israel, I assume it's a few dozens, not a lot. I don't know exactly the number. 10, 20, 30, it's not. And of course, there are all the people who returned from captivity and all the people who were witnesses. So it's a few dozens of people who are in that thing. People, especially the survivors from the Nova Party, the horrible trauma, they don't talk about it too much. We know, we in the organization know about people that did never came out, and maybe one day they will. And in the Holocaust, for example, in Israel, in the Holocaust, talking about sexual violence in the Holocaust in Israel only happened about 15 years ago, decades after the Holocaust. It takes so long. So you as professionals who understand what is trauma, you can totally understand how complicated it is to talk about it, how it takes so much time, like regular like victims or other victims of sexual violence. And the best thing is to understand and you cannot convince people who don't want to be convinced, but friends and people who are willing to hear. It's a war also. It's a war of putting this narrative. This thing happened, and I always say, if it happened in Israel, it could happen in any other country. So if people don't stand up, it's if you don't say anything and you're quiet, then you actually give legitimation to this kind of thing. So the thing is, understand there is denial, not expecting from pro-Palestinians to change their views, because they will not change their views. But there are a lot of other people who are quiet, don't exactly understand, don't understand the dynamics, so to talk, to explain, and we cannot change all of the world. We can change a little bit, and that's what we're all trying to do all the time. Like you're here helping people in Israel that are suffering so much. Each one of us touches some people, and together we touch a big group of people. That's what I think.
Thank you, Orit. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sue, can I add one more sentence? The more we're confident, I've noticed, the easier it is to speak, because if you know it, just stick to what you know, stand with your truth, and energetically wise, it passes forward. Sometimes it's not about the words, it's about our body posture, it's about how we're sure about ourselves. And that's what would play the role. We manage what the other person feels in front of us, not the other way around. We just have to keep looking at it like that. But I would like to say thank you so much. And those that wrote the questions, we will send them. And Orit, if you don't mind, we take your time and we'll answer the question, because everybody, so many people wrote lovely questions. I
Okay.
myself have questions, but I let you guys speak. And please, if Orit, we will speak further about this. We do want to help. We're here to help also those of you that are around the world and you're a bit worried about the anti-Semitism, or you want to feel that confidence. Just put your sternum out, just 2 millimeters, we call it, forward. And that plays the part. Exactly. Put it out there. Just stand the ground. Put your feet straight, ground yourself, and you know the answer. We're here for you. We're here for everybody. Pass it forward. And we're all going to stay in touch. You can follow us also on Instagram. We've got this, guys. So, yeah. Thank you so much for being here with us. We really appreciate it. Orit.
תודה רבה.